Day 3. Well, as you can see, we're leaving St Asaph. First few miles of today will be on tarmac, very, very narrow country lanes, kind of winding through and climbing out St Asaph up the hills. Before later on we'll start some more kind of footpaths. So should be a fun day. There's a storm come through overnight, but at the moment it's dry, but I think today's weather will be a bit changeable. It's a nice little lane. It's overgrown with trees on little places, and just kind of slightly uphill all of the way. We're definitely climbing out onto higher ground. Now this first part will take us up to a village, a small village, where I think we can collect a stamp of the church. St Mary's Church is quite prominent. It certainly sits out on the landscape compared with others. Unfortunately, it was closed. That's our first stamp on day 3. Okay, so there's St Asaph, hiding in the tree line there. Interesting series of barns over there. So what goes up must go down. We're now kind of over the top of that first hill that we've been gently climbing up this morning, and we're going to drop down a little bit more steeply into a valley, and then I think we've got to climb out again even higher than we've already done so far. At first the way down is not very clear, but a little bit further on it's there and you can find your way down. It takes you down towards a bridge which you can actually stop and have a look over both sides. Although, well, I was going to lean on the side of this bridge to look over, and then I suddenly saw all of the scrape marks down the side and the bowing here. The path now takes you into the woods. It's a good steady climb all the way to the top. This is where you will find an electric fence. Once you've gone under this, it's up through the middle of the field where you'll get a chance to stop and have a look back across the Clwydians of where you've been. The next is to kind of cross this field through this farm and kind of heading in that direction, but ultimately we'll kind of shift over towards that hill there. So a few more electric fences to do some ducking and diving to get round. Once you pass the farm, it's turn right and up through a whole series of fields. But then there's chance to actually look back again at the Vale of Clwyd, which is now disappearing behind you. So, trail goes left, which is the route. But if you want to collect your stamp, you've got to drop down right, probably about a quarter of a mile, a little bit more maybe. The church at Llanefydd was actually closed, but fortunately I was still able to get my stamp as it was still available at the door. There was also time for a quick look around, but that didn't last long and it was back to the Pilgrims Way. The reward, of course, for going down to the church, collecting your stamp, is the climb back up again. So you obviously need to decide, is it for you or not? But I think it's worth it. The view's very nice. It was now time to move off the tarmac and into the fields. The trail moved across the valley above the cows and through to the other end. Also, the surrounding scenery could be seen. There were flowers and stiles and cows. Fortunately, they weren't in the same field as me, as I made my way across the valley and down to a cattle grid. It was now only a short walk to the next section of tarmac. And then a little stop, stock up on a little bit of water, food. Not really a lot of places to sit down on this walk. You'd kind of end up sitting either in the grass, on some stiles, or here, a nice suitable grit bin. Anyway, that was kind of one of the better places to have a nice little rest here. We kind of reached the top of the walk now and we're kind of descending down, so we're kind of heading down towards what I believe is a river valley, and eventually we'll start walking along that to our destination today, so that should be nice. We'll lose some of the views, but hopefully we'll get a few more as we go down. This was one of the final high-level views of the day. I hadn't actually realised we'd actually gained so much height. Seemed to be dropping quite a way now into the bottom of this valley. It was just such a gentle approach this morning to a lot of the climbing, well, some of it. That you're kind of just progressing upwards and not realising how much you're gaining in height. But now that we're dropping down, you get an appreciation of how much we'd actually climbed. We're kind of closing in on the bottom of the valley. Another one of these cattle grids to walk across. The route did actually go through here, but I found a way round the side and made my way down to Arbon Aled. Passing by some houses, the path made its way along the river until it reached a point where it couldn't go more. It had to go left and over the river. It then had to turn back and go back over the river again. As we're right down in the bottom of the valley, there's not a breath of wind. So you're kind of walking along hot, a bit sweaty, unfortunately. And there's not a lot you can do about it because there's no wind and no real way to cool off down here. But it is a nice little walk, kind of walking along a vehicle track in amongst the trees. Come out again, look at the river. So it's a really nice, flattish, pleasant last section to the actual walk today, and it'll hopefully it stays like this all the way to the finish. The track had to cross the river again, where there was a squirrel waiting in the trees, but it was not far now. The track was near its end. At the fifth time, there was a cat who just wanted to tease. But that was it. I'd arrived at Llansannan, the final destination for today, and it was only round the corner before I entered the church. Saint Sannan was a Celtic Christian saint from the 6th century. He befriended St David while they were in Rome, but came back here to set up a religious establishment. He's supposedly buried in Gwaith just up the road. 1254 is the oldest reference, and the 18th century is when it was renovated, so most of the church today is the last 200 years. Well, that's it. That's the end of day 3. So it's been a good day. There's a few trials and tribulations along the way, but generally the route has been quite good. It's quite a lot of tarmac today compared to the kind of more fields grass type. A couple of tracks or kind of gravelly tracks, so much more harder surfaces today, and a few short steep kind of hills up and down, but generally good. Navigation wise very good as well. Maybe a couple of minor little ones that needed double checked, but most of the route is waymarked, with only a few exceptions, and you know, we've made it here to Llansannan, and which is kind of the final destination for today, and I look forward to seeing you on day 4.